Welcome back to the Fishing Doctor's Adventures. Today we're in the kitchen for a cook your catch. Now this might be part of the reason I haven't been making many fishing videos recently. We've moved back into our house that we've had renovated, so this is our new kitchen and we're going to put it to good use today. A lot of people ask me what I do with all this sockeye I've been catching, and I tell them I can salmon. People are like, what is canned salmon? Well, quite often people will buy it in those little tins in the store, but you can actually can it yourself at home. What you'll need are these things. A pressure canner, that is the key, since you need to put your fish under high pressure in order to cook them so that it lasts, killing all the bacteria in the can. Next thing, it's really simple. The sockeye salmon you caught and some salt. That's about as basic as it gets. I'm going to add something that a coworker told me. She's from Fiji. She said they add garlic, so I'm going to try some with garlic today, see if I can spice things up a little bit. So what you want to do is use the pint-sized jars, just like this. These are brand new jars, so I ran them through the washing machine first, and then the dishwasher, and then I'm going to pop them in the boiling water. Leave them in there for, I don't know, 10 minutes or more, and then take them out, let them cool off a bit. You can pack them then with the salmon. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Right here I have my beautiful sockeye salmon that we caught out on the ocean, out in front of the Fraser River. These I've already scaled. I've cut all the fins off, I've cut the heads off, I've cleaned out all of the abdominal cavity, and I have them all ready for canning. So right here in this is a canner, a typical canner which does not require any pressure. So if you're doing a water bath canning, you can use this thing, but this is what I use to boil off my jars. And once they've been boiled off, we use one of these fancy handy dandy things so you don't burn your hands, and you can just go in there and pull these jars out like so. Get around them. Actually, it's hard to do looking through a camera, harder than I thought. Scoop them up, pour out the water. Try not to spill this boiling hot water on yourself because it runs down here and gets ya. And then once you've done that, put them out on a towel and do that with the rest of them. Let them cool a bit so you can pack them. Well, let's start with the salmon. This is, like I said, fully prepared sockeye salmon, and I like to get all the slime off that I can. I've already scaled them. When I scale the salmon, I like using a big heavy knife. I find it easier. What you do is you go towards the head and put a fairly steep angle like this, and you just scrape all the scales off, okay? That's how you do it. Wipe off all the slime off this fish. I've already cleaned them and rinsed them off, but of course they always have a bit of slime left on them. You can just use paper towel to get the majority of it off. Wipe out the abdominal cavity once more, just for good measure. And then you go ahead and you cut it up. Now, to cut the fish up, the best thing to do is to cut it, usually about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick, so it'll fit in your jar good. And then that's what I'll do. So, cut this whole one up into pieces like that, and then you get it ready for packing. Okay, so now I got that salmon all cut up into about 3/4 inch strips, and I'm going to do that with the rest of them, and then I can pack the jars. One thing I learned from that's my girls, Kalia and Sierra in the background. One of the things I've learned from doing this before and from watching the Captain Quinn, you can use about 4 sockeye will make about 16 pints, and it's right around there, 15, 16, that's what I find. So let's cut the rest of this up and then we'll pack them in the jars. So a little bit about this fishery. Fraser River Run for sockeye has an excellent year class every 4 years. The other years are kind of dismal and they usually don't open up a fishery in recent years. So this year, 2018, was a great year. Maybe not as good as the last few openings, but it's better than nothing. I expected in between 7 and 13 million fish. I don't know what it's going to end up being. Hey, and check out my other videos on how to catch sockeye out on the ocean. It's a lot more fun than on the river. You're usually allowed 4 is the limit. On the river it's about 2, I think, was the limit on the freshwater this year. And you catch them with downriggers, it's a lot of fun. Okay, one more fish to cut up and then I'll be packing them. Packing the jars is really quite simple. All you do is take your jar that's clean, been boiled, and then you stuff it full of salmon, and you put the skin to the outside of the glass and you push it down, make it so it's level, and then you fill it in with every kind of piece that you can so that it is completely full. Sometimes you got to use different pieces to fill up the jar and make it as full as possible. If the piece doesn't fit in very well, then I cut off the belly parts and save those to stuff the jar even more full when you're getting close to the end, okay? So we'll stuff these full here. And you don't want to fill it right close to the top, else the jar might bust. So about 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch of head space is just perfect, just like that. That's a full jar. That's how you want it packed, like that, okay? So that's one packed, and we'll do the rest here. Okay, so I have my 16 jars of salmon packed and ready to go. Now there's a few more things you need to do. You can use half a teaspoon or a whole teaspoon of salt in these, and I'm going to use the kosher salt, coarse salt. I guess you can use the pickling or canning salt as well. My friend at work said she likes this one better. She doesn't think it has quite as strong a taste as the actually pickling or canning salt. So I'll go ahead and use this one. Some people use 1 teaspoon of salt. I use half a teaspoon of salt. So it's kind of up to you just how much seasoning you want on your fish. You just pour it right on the top. If you have a little extra, it doesn't matter. Because like I said, you can have a teaspoon. Like you can see, I'm going over half a teaspoon here, which is fine. There's that full box. If you like an easy way to keep your garlic fresh, just clean it and put it in the fridge in a jar. It stays fresh for quite a while. So we have 16 pints. I'd say about half a clove per pint. So we'll do 8 cloves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And so the best way to get the most flavor out of your garlic, when you have a clove like this, you take your knife flat side and you crush it just like that, and then you chop it up. Chop it up, and then I'm going to put that chopped garlic, about half a clove like that, and then we'll slide it into the first jar. We're going to do that for all of our jars just like that. And this time we'll see how it turns out. That seems like a good idea to me. Oh yeah, I'll get those all done, and then we'll come back for the closing of the jars. So now that we have all the jars loaded with salmon, salt, and garlic, you need to clean off the top edges, because probably while you're putting in the salmon, you smeared the top edges with salmon, and vinegar is a nice way to get that stuff off since it's fatty and oily. So just put a little bit in a little dish, and then I use a little paper towel, a little bit on a paper towel, get it moist, and then go ahead and clean all the tops off really well so that the jars will seal better, okay? You don't want any, after all this work, you don't want any bad seals. Just go around, spin the jars like that, make sure the top's all cleaned off, and then you can go ahead and put the lids on top. One of these little magnetic devices will really help you get the job done. So I'm just going to pull all the hot water, bring them around the corner, and you just pop the lid right on top like that. And then once you got that on, you have the ring. I screw the ring on pretty tight, give it a good finger tight, and then that jar is ready to go in the pressure canner. I'm going to do that to all the jars. Right here, this is your pressure canner. This one's made by Preston, I guess, or Presto. Before each use, you should make sure it's clean. This is a rubber gasket seal on this one. Make sure it's intact. Look through the peephole. And if you can see light through the other end, it's clean. If not, you should run a pipe cleaner through that hole and make sure it's clean, because that's where the steam comes out. That's where you put the pressure weight on. Inside, it has a rack on the bottom to keep the cans off. You put that in, and you fill it with the recommended amount of water. You don't actually cover the jars with the water. It comes up part way, and then it will steam down throughout the cooking process. What we're going to do is, once we got this jar all loaded up, I'll show you how we get this thing pressure cooking. So this canner actually only fits 8 jars, so some of them are 2 levels, can fit 16 pints. So I have to do 2 runs to get this all done. So I capped them all off, put the other 8 in the fridge to wait for when it's done. So the loaded canner will look like that. Try to keep them all spaced out a little bit with 8 jars in it. Put your heat on to high, and then we're going to put the lid on. So now that we have all the jars in there, this is the lid. It has a pressure valve. Once the pot reaches pressure, this will pop up. Steam will start flowing out through the top, and once it has for 10 minutes, then you can go ahead and put on the weight. Make sure you're putting this on the correct way so you don't have any explosions. It says line up the arrows and then you turn to close. For pressure canning salmon, this is the weight you use. 2 pieces. This one is 5 pounds. This one means it's 10 pounds. So you put that on there. That'll be 10 pounds of weight. It'll go on there once it starts steaming. This thing will rattle away. I'll give you a shot of what that looks like once it's going. And that is what gives you the pressure in order to get the temperature up for that water to cook the salmon off and cook all the bacteria off so that it's going to last a long time. We usually do it for 100 minutes. I know a lot of guys say 10 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes. I think that's sufficient. The booklet I have with this pot says 100 minutes, so that's what I do in this particular one. So you see this pressure valve is up here. Steam has been flowing good for about 10 minutes. Once it starts flowing, you can usually turn down the heat to about medium. And then you plop this 10-pound weight on here, and it'll start to rattle in a little bit. I'll show you what that looks like. And then, that's when you start the timer for the 100 minutes. Usually I'll crank the heat back up to high to get that thing rattling quicker, okay? And that's what it looks like when it's rattling. So once that's going, you can turn the heat back down to medium. Right about medium, it'll cook at a nice rate of rattling, not going too crazy. And then set your timer for 100 minutes, and then it'll be done. And we'll show you what to do when you reach the 100 minutes. Okay, so the heat has now been turned off after 100 minutes. You've seen this rocker stopped rocking. That little valve at the back is still popped up, so you have to wait till that drops down. And that means the pressure has dropped in the canister enough to take the weight off the top, which if the steam is no longer coming out, then you're free to open up the top of the pressure cooker and take your jars out. So we'll just wait for that to happen and then show you what the final product looks like. So now this back thing is dropped. I'm gonna take the weight off. First of all, I rock it, see if anything happens. Take it off, no steam. At this point, you're good to open up the canister. Gently, should have no pressure left. Watch out because there's gonna be some water in there. And all of our jars are still cooking away. We need this special device to lift the cans out of the canner. Like this. And we lift them out. There, look at that. Cooking away. Tilt it a little to get the water off. That is really cooking. These are all the cans out of the canner now. You see they're still cooking away, bubbling like crazy. And remember, I didn't add any fluid to the fish. The fish make enough fluid and oils of their own to fill the jar, keep the fish hydrated. So you don't need to add anything, just the salt and garlic. Now, these lids will pop down by themselves, so don't push the top down. Look, you heard one. There's already 3 have already sucked down. 1, 2, 3, and the rest will go, except for this one. Now you see, I probably overpacked this one over here. And what happened is it bent the top of the lid. I'll show you a close-up of that one so you can see. They're all sealing right now. So this right here is a canning fail. I'm glad it didn't bust the bottom of the jar off. Sometimes it breaks the bottom of the jar right off. This one just bent up the top to release some pressure. So this can, it's still good for eating. You can pop it in the fridge and eat it. You know, in the next couple weeks probably it'll be fine, even maybe a little longer. but I'll probably eat it before that in the next couple days here. And so if any jar has any irregularity or the seal doesn't go down on its own, then you should keep that can in the fridge, and then you'll have it, you know, okay to eat in the next little while. The other ones that do seal, those ones you can put away. You don't have to store them in the fridge. You can keep them at room temperature for many years actually. They will last a very long time. So this is a great way to preserve your salmon and enjoy it at a later date. Well, that's it for Canning Sockeye Salmon with Fishing Doctor. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, keep on watching, and hit that notification bell so you can find out when we're going to post more videos. If you enjoyed this cooking demonstration, let me know in the comment section, and maybe I'll do some more here in the kitchen because I do enjoy cooking my catch. Hey, thanks for watching. See you later.